Hello, my Ad Age Insiders. Today is January 23rd, and this week I have the download on a really great marketing story that you need to know about. We're going to be talking about trends in media strategy, particularly the rush of long form branded entertainment that we've seen recently, and what it means for you and your marketing strategy. So keep listening. This is Ad Age Insider, where I'm taking you behind the scenes of the ad industry's biggest stories alongside the reporters who actually wrote them. I'm your host, Parker Heron. Make sure to hit like and follow wherever you're watching right now. So, over the past few months, we've seen major brands upping their work in long form branded entertainment. You can think of that as a traditional film short, something like Gusher's 9-minute horror for Halloween. That was a really great one. Others have been serialized dramas that tap into the microdrama trend that we're seeing on the rise. That would be something like Maybelline's Christmas rom-com, which they distributed across both social media platforms and emerging platforms for microdramas like Real Short. Personally, I was really struck by this wave of experimentation that's happening right now when dollars are really tight and attention is shorter than ever. And so I called in a little bit of backup so that we can get to the bottom of what it means for marketers. From measurement and performance to platform strategy and this see what sticks mentality that we're seeing from these brands, I get into the weeds of this long form advertising surge with Brandon Doerrer, who's Ad Age's creativity and media innovation reporter. He's with me today to chat about what branded entertainment means for media strategy and what marketers can learn from this trend, even if they don't have a Hollywood budget. Let's get into it. Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Hey, Parker. Thank you for inviting me to chat with you today.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I mentioned in this episode's intro that you wrote a really good story about a recent surge of long form brand storytelling that we're seeing. And I want us to dig into the nitty gritty, like takeaways from strategy and distribution measurement and blah, 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 all these amazing things. But first, I have a big picture question for you. I'm curious what you're seeing change in the media landscape right now that's compelling brands to kind of ignore traditional ad lengths and formats and try out this type of branded entertainment right now.
Yeah, I'd say it's a mix of a couple things. This is not brand new news, but the media landscape is very fragmented. Brands are continuously thinking of new ways to stand out and reach as many consumers in all of the different places where they spend their time as possible. And so a lot of the creatives that I spoke to for this story talked about how when trying to do that, maybe the 30-second spot, which has been done, one source pointed out for decades, is not the best way to do that. And so part of, I think, what has inspired this trend of brands pursuing more long form marketing is this desire to stand out, try something new, to reach consumers in the multitude of places, right, where they spend their time across the media ecosystem. I think brands are also getting inspired. This is not entirely related to your question, but it still relates to the overall inspiration. They're watching what creators are doing, right, on social media. They're seeing them shape media consumption habits. They are creating content of varying lengths. Some of them stream for up to 10 hours a day. So some of them make long form films. Some of them make short form films. A couple seconds of content. And so it's just getting more and more normal that especially Gen Z consumers are watching content that is not the 30-minute or hour-long TV show. And so building 30-second commercials around ad breaks for those programs is just starting to make a little less sense as well. So it's a bit of a combo of those two things.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, also tapping into maybe what we like watching versus what we don't like watching. I gotta say, I watch a lot of streaming TV, and the ads right now, it's a grim place, those ad breaks. Not good, not good, not enjoying myself.
Yeah. I don't watch as much streaming TV. I'm watching Fallout right now. That's like the
Oh,
only
I'm behind.
show that I'm currently watching. Yeah, I'm rarely blown away by an ad that I see as I watch.
Rarely is better than what I would put myself at. As you just noted, that this type of branded entertainment has popped up kind of on the periphery, I would say, for a while, and it has had a bit of momentum over the past few years. And I think that feels a little bit different, though, than this new trend that you're pointing out. I'm wondering what your read is on like what brands are looking to accomplish here, why they're doing this.
So a lot of this work is upper funnel attention and awareness. One person that I actually spoke to for this story, Kathleen Swanson, who is the head of creative and brand and entertainment marketing at Maximum Effort, talked about how there's this instinct to make advertising very scientific, right? I think it's no secret that we are in a very performance focused era of marketing right now. But for a lot of this long form marketing, in particular, she really pushed back against that idea. The exact quote she said was, "We kind of measure with our heart a little bit. If it brings us joy, it'll probably bring other people joy." This is not necessarily aligning with, I think, the overall direction, right? We see actually the marketing industry heading in with everything being so performance focused. A lot of this long form work is yeah, like I was saying, very very upper funnel awareness and attention focus. Again, just trying to stand out in a crowded space.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like it's that there's this constant kind of pendulum swing between performance and brand and, what is the, media strategy du jour. So, it's interesting that this is coming amidst what I would say is a pretty performance-focused time, like you said. I actually wanted to call out that quote that you just read because I thought it was really interesting, and I was going to kind of ask you to dig deeper into exactly what you just said, so maybe we can stick on it for a minute. The measurement landscape, it's the thing that, like, all media people are obsessed with, but I find never wanna talk about because it's, like, such a headache. Um, it is, like, a core tenet of advertising that, an agency does work, like Maximum Effort might do, then they have to tell the brand how it performed, and everybody wants it to be good news. So I thought this quote was really interesting, and I was wondering if you could even read between the lines a little bit further about, like, the goals that brands are looking for in this type of long form work and how, I guess, a brand who does this might look at success.
Yes. It's and my previous answer is not to say that they don't measure. Of course, they do. They do have metrics that they're
Measure with the
keeping track
heart.
of. They measure with the heart. That's one of them. They also do have other stats that they look at. I spoke to also Tara Lawal, who's the chief creative officer and partner at Rethink New York, and she was talking about how when you're making a long ad, right? If you make a 30-second ad and someone watches the first 15 seconds of it, that's half the ad. That's pretty good. If you make a 3-minute ad or longer, right? The 15 seconds, it becomes a smaller and smaller fraction of the overall piece. So one of the metrics that came up when I was talking to people about measuring these longer form ads is completion rate, right? We've started to see a trend of short form dramas, basically, right? Micro dramas. And we've even
Mhm.
seen some platforms start to cater to this. I think TikTok a couple of days ago just launched a dedicated micro drama app. Um, but yeah, when you're making long form content, it's really important that consumers watch as much of this content as possible because you are probably not putting key information about the brand or the product in those first 15 seconds. So if you're getting people who are bouncing off early, they're likely not seeing what the overall ad is intending them to see. But it from what I've seen chatting with people for this story, consumers do seem willing to watch longer form content. I think it was the Maybelline microdrama that the Maximum Effort put together. They told me that 1/3 of viewers who saw the first episode watched all the way through to the fifth and final episode of that series. So consumers have shown a willingness to watch all the way through, and that does seem to be a pretty important metric, right? If you're going to stretch out your ad to a longer length.
That's interesting. Anytime I've talked to sources about branded entertainment, there's always a lot of excitement. There's always like a kind of, like you said, creative woohoo, like, yes, this is something we're excited about. But at the same time, I always hear this one line, which is like, this will be big as soon as like one project really takes off. As soon as that one brand does this and it goes viral and everybody watches it and it's a huge success. How do we know that this is sticking? How do we know that this is something brands are going to continue investing in instead of just being a trend right now?
I think this is a situation where time is going to tell, right? We are seeing a lot of investment being put into, for example, right, this micro drama trend, and we're seeing platforms cater to it. But media consumption habits change all the time. How long people are actually going to continue to invest in this type of content? Um, th- I think this is just going to be a situation where time tells, right? If consumers continue to tune in and brands continue to cater to it with more of these longer campaigns. Um, this stuff is secular. What is the word?
Secular.
Cyclical,
Cyclical.
cyclical,
I was like, wait, what?
cyclical. Wow. This is something I got into the story is the long form trend is not a brand new thing, right? This was a little bit before my time, so I had to talk to Tim Nudd, our creativity editor, who has been covering this.
You're calling
This
him old.
He's more seasoned, more experienced, more wise, is the
Mm.
way that I would put it. He saw a kind of a similar emergence, right, of long form marketing. Actually took place right around like 2014. I think it was Arby's. There was a brand that set an ad for the longest. I'm sorry, they set a record for the longest ad. It was multiple hours long. It was just a video of a brisket cooking in an oven. So yeah, this is not a brand new thing. We'll see if how long it sticks around for, but yeah, these things come and go.
Yes, and people love to point out the OGs, soap opera, that's where it all began. So, like you said, this has been happening for a long time and will continue. Um, if I'm listening right now and I'm thinking to myself, "Ooh, I'd like to try that out for my brand." What are your takeaways from your reporting on the reason why I'd want to do this and any tips for pulling it off in a way that's going to hit?
Yes. The biggest takeaway I got from all the creatives that I interviewed for this is only pursue making a longer ad if you have an idea that necessitates making a longer ad, right? If you have an idea that's going to be hard to communicate in a shorter format. One of the dangers, I think, of pursuing a project like Gusher's, 9-minute horror film is these projects can get a little self-indulgent, right? We're all creatives. We all like to make interesting things, and there can be this impulse when you finally have that freedom to create something a little bit more artistic, that it's a little too, again, you're making something for yourself because you finally have the freedom to do it. So one thing is to really make sure that you have an idea that requires making an ad that is um, on the longer side.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, like you're kind of alluding to, probably the means to, take a risk like this. Even you mentioned the Maybelline work. I thought it was interesting. They distributed the, series on, I believe it's called Real Short,
Mhm.
which is an emerging microdrama platform, and Hollywood hasn't even figured out microdramas. Like, the brands are kind of beating the entertainment to these platforms too. So, there is some sort of uncertainty just in whether or not consumers want this at large, much less a brand doing it. So that's interesting. And it makes me wonder too, on the flip side of what we were just talking about, bigger productions, more curated distribution and research of platforms, complicated measurement, etc. If I'm a brand that can't afford to do this type of project for any of those reasons, is there anything that I could learn from this trend anyway and implement into my strategy without quite that investment?
Yeah, I will say, just to start, based off the interviews that I did, it actually a lot of these projects tended to not be much more expensive than a standard production process. Rethink,
Interesting.
which did the Doritos, it was like a 3-minute porn parody with Walton Goggins last
Really
summer.
good. I love that
It
one.
was awesome. Actually, that might have been my favorite. It was up there in terms of my favorite ads. I was very entertained by it. But they said they shot the whole thing in one day.
Mm.
And so one of the benefits of doing projects like this is you get that A-tier director, right? You get really top-notch talent who, it just these projects actually tend to come together pretty quickly, and it's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you have an idea that necessitates making a long ad is that so you are not unnecessarily stretching out a production process, because that's where the extra costs really start to kick in. So, um, yeah, they're not necessarily more expensive, from what I saw. Sorry, and one more time, what was the question? I feel like I danced around it, but did not fully answer it.
No, I think you did. I was asking what a brand who couldn't afford a big production like this could take away, but I think it's a valid point that you might be able to afford it even if you don't think you can.
And if you can't afford it for whatever reason, I do think there is still a takeaway for those brands. And it's I think how the story kind of ends is let the idea lead the format. D- do not try to force an idea into a format. It's you really got to let the idea lead. What this ad is going to look like at the end of the day.
Yeah. I want to zoom out again after we've dug into some of the details and hear what this trend might point to more broadly for how advertisers are thinking about media right now, what this might mean. If this was one bullet point of evidence within a media strategy deck or something like that, what do you think this might implicate about broader media strategy trends right now?
I think it is somewhat reflective of what we saw out of a lot of media reports that were coming out towards the end of last year, right? Increased investment in social and digital marketing. A lot of this work tends to run on YouTube and social media. It's tough to categorize it as social content because it is such like high production value, but it is a lot of this is social first content. So I think it's reflective of again what we saw with a lot of media reports that came out towards the end of last year, and that social and digital marketing they're just continuing to grow, continuing to dominate budgets.
Hmm. When you're reporting this story, I'm wondering what's something that either surprised you, you didn't expect to hear, or something that might not seem like when you read the headline of your story, you're expecting to discover.
I'd say the most surprising thing to me was that the brands are willing to let their their agencies do this and are interested in pursuing this themselves, right? Like we said, this is some of this thinking is kind of counterintuitive to this performance first marketing that we're kind of seeing dominate the discussions around the industry. So the fact that brands seem willing to create something like a 9-minute horror short or a 3-minute porn parody or 10 minutes ads, hour-long ads. A lot of that seems counterintuitive, I think, to narratives that are common, kind of dominating the industry right now. So, yeah, that was kind of just the surprising part. And then, obviously, hearing that some of these projects have come together as fast as they have surprised me as well.
So to follow up on that, I'm wondering why do you think brands are willing to experiment like that right now? Is there anything in the air that either makes them willing or need to, have a see what sticks mentality about their media?
I think they kind of feel like they need to, right? I had a source talk to me about how the value of the 30-second spot is starting to decrease. Like we said, right, in this modern media landscape and with consumption habits as they are, it doesn't seem like consumers are necessarily clicking with those traditional 30-second commercials like they used to. Obviously, I say that before the Super Bowl is about to come out, and there's obviously people are going to watch those and talk about those. But aside from that, generally, right, that I think brands feel like they need to do something different. They need to try something new in order to actually stand out and catch consumers' attention. And so the tried and true 30-second spot is maybe not the best way to do that all the time.
Yes, yes, I know. Forget about what's happening in a couple of weeks. Nobody's spending millions and millions on those 30 seconds.
The Super Bowl has always been a unique instance, right? It's the one time of year people actually,
Yeah.
besides us, talk about ads in their free time. So
My last question for you is Whether or not brands continue to put out long form serialized work like this or not, what is the thing we should be looking out for next to know that, this story has progressed? Not just the next long form ad, but something that's like, oh, I heard Brandon say on that podcast he's interested to see this next thing happen.
Yeah, I mean, I am still interested in this microdrama trend. There's a ton of money that is pouring into, microdrama content right now.
Mhm.
Consumers are consuming that content at a really high clip right now. I'm curious to see how long I guess that lasts. Again, like TikTok just made an app dedicated to it a couple days ago. So I am really interested to see if that keeps up and yeah, I guess how strong that trend continues. And then obviously I think boiling this down to the idea leading the format of the ad that potentially has tons of implications for making ads, really cool ads out of home, making really cool experiential ads, right? Brands just being more willing to try new things in new places because they feel like they need to stand out. So, from a media perspective, I think this potentially has implications for brands being willing to just try new things in new places.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I hate to invoke Quibi here, but there is a graveyard of platforms that have tried this. It seems like there's a little more momentum behind it now, a little more force, a mass force, but we'll see what happens. This is an evolving story, and I'm really excited to follow along with you, Brandon. So we'll be keeping up with your coverage. Thank you so much for
Thank,
dropping some knowledge on us today.
thank you so much for having me.
All right. If you thought that conversation was as good as I thought it was, consider liking this video and following Ad Age Insider wherever you're watching right now. I want to thank my guest, Brandon Doerrer, for breaking this all down for us. And I want to thank my producer, Lauren Ciardio. I want to thank you for listening. If you want to have influence on the topics that I discuss here on Ad Age Insider, email your ideas to aapodcast@adage.com, or you can send me, Parker Heron, a DM on LinkedIn. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Parker Heron, and this is Ad Age Insider. Enjoy your day.